travelers. Hey, thanks for stopping by my channel. I really appreciate it a lot. My name is Bob of the Old Ways. If you're new here, welcome. If you're not new here, welcome back. So before we dive into this article, and by the way, do not let the thumbnail of my video fool you. It's just algorithm bait. I am not an old white man on the internet who is about to complain about Snow White. Sorry about that. But before we dive into the article I'm looking at here from Pink News, let's talk a little bit about DEI, because that's what this article is about. Now, there's a lot of people out there, particularly a lot of white men, who seem to think that the point of DEI policies is to hire unqualified minorities over qualified white men in the service of some kind of liberal Marxist agenda or something like that. And it's actually the opposite of that. DEI exists to provide opportunities to qualified minorities over the unqualified white men who are often promoted and hired just because they are white men and not because they're the most qualified person or because they have the most merit. And there's been a big push against DEI. I'm sure you're all aware of it, leading up to the re-election of Donald Trump, who, by the way, barely won the election. It was the third smallest electoral victory in US history. So do not let them fool you when they act like they have a mandate. A lot of corporations fell for this, and they bent the knee to Trump's executive orders against DEI, even though those executive orders have no legal weight on non-government agencies, right? And that's going to be an important point to consider and remember going forward as we dive into this article. So the article I'm looking at here is titled, "Overwhelming Majority of Disney Shareholders Vote to Reject Right-Wing Anti-Diversity Proposal." So let's dive in and see what this says, get some details here. We'll talk more about it as we go along. The article goes, Disney shareholders have rejected an anti-DEI proposal put forward by a conservative think tank during the company's annual meeting. Disney shareholders rejected the proposal, which would remove the company from participating in the Corporate Equality Index, a national benchmarking tool on corporate policies involving diversity, equity, and inclusion, pertinent to LGBTQ+ employees set up by the Human Rights Campaign. At Disney's annual shareholder meeting held Thursday, 20 March, the conservative think tank, National Center for Public Policy Research, urged them to stop using the HRC's CEI as a benchmark. According to Yahoo Finance, just 1% of Disney shareholders voted to approve the motion. So Disney's shareholders are like, piss off, bro. They're not falling for this. The article continues. The think tank wrote in a proxy statement on the proposal, quote, "When corporations take extreme positions, they destroy shareholder value by alienating large portions of their customers and investors. This proposal provides Disney with an opportunity to move back to neutral. Move back to neutral. Move back to neutral." These people think that the system we had before DEI was neutral. And again, the opposite of true. DEI tries to create a situation where we are all starting from a level playing field. That is neutrality. When minorities and the majority have an equal opportunity at the start, that's neutrality. The system that this think tank wants to go back to was not neutral. It was white supremacist and male supremacist and straight supremacist and so forth. It was a system in which white, cisgendered, heterosexual, usually Christian men were hired and promoted just because they were white, cisgendered, heterosexual, presumably Christian men. If you are a white man of a certain age, like my age or older, for instance, or even younger, I'm Gen X for the record, the way white supremacy and male supremacy works is like this. This is why you never feel like you're the one who's at fault and why you feel put upon when people talk about this. The reason you feel uncomfortable about it is this. It is extremely likely that however far you've gotten in life, at least at one point in that journey, someone, another white man, promoted you or gave you an opportunity only because you were a white man, and he did not tell you that was the reason. All of us know that this happened to us, and so we all know At some point in our past, we were given an unfair opportunity that we did not earn. And we don't like to be reminded of that. So that's why you, fellow white men, feel uncomfortable when people raise this point, because you suspect it's probably true, that you may not be the most meritocratic person for the job. Just bear that in mind. Anyway, the article continues. Disney, whose board reportedly recommended that its shareholders vote against the motion prior to Thursday's meeting, wrote in response that it didn't believe the think tank's request, quote, would provide additional value to shareholders. That's an important point. We'll come back to that in a minute. The global brand has had a perfect score on the Corporate Equality Index every year since 2007. Eric Bloem, the vice president of corporate citizenship at the HRC Foundation, said in a statement that the, quote, vote gives us a clear statement of values from Disney shareholders. Despite the growing politicalization of DEI and workplace inclusion, leading global businesses remain committed to the belief that a welcoming, inclusive environment drives innovation, boosts productivity, and strengthens the bottom line. We'll come back to that point too. Despite Disney shareholders' apparent committal to maintaining DEI in the company, it has not been without controversy in recent projects. New Disney Pixar show Win or Lose axed a minor trans storyline before release, and more trivially, fans of Lilo and Stitch were annoyed that the character Pleakley's drag disguises have been seemingly removed from the live-action film after its first trailer. Under the administration of President Trump, DEI programs have already been gutted from the American military, and companies such as Paramount and Google have followed suit, following several executive orders. So that's the end of the article, okay? Now, the points raised at the end of this article are very important because they illustrate a principle we all need to keep in mind here. It's important to remember that Disney is not an ally to oppressed people, and they're not engaging in virtue signaling when they do DEI policies like this. They're acting out of enlightened self-interest. They are acting out of self-preservation. A lot of opponents of DEI seem to be under the impression that diversity is being forced into media on the rest of us out of some kind of political agenda at the top of corporations. And again, that has the power and economic relations reversed a little bit here. Corporations are leaning into diversity because they have no choice. It's a demographic change, a change in the material conditions. The ethnic population of the United States is changing. Within the lifetime of most people watching this video, generally projected around the year 2045 to 2050, white people will no longer be the majority of the population in the United States. They will be the single largest ethnic bloc, but all of the other racial groups combined will outnumber us. And this is driving two things. It's driving the white paranoia at the heart of the MAGA movement, the white replacement theory, and all of their paranoid ramblings about Democrats bringing in illegal aliens to vote and trans people grooming kids and all that stuff. At the heart of that is a paranoia about the diminishment of white power in the United States. However, that same demographic trend is also driving the corporate push for diversity, because corporations need a workforce to survive. And they know that in a little more than a decade or so, most people in the labor pool will not be white. So they have no choice but to be proactive in extending recruitment opportunities into minority communities. They have to do this to survive. So ultimately, companies like Paramount and Google will reverse their anti-DEI policies. They may do it quietly. They may readopt the practices and just not announce it to anyone, but they will continue to push diversity, because diversity is being pushed on them by the material conditions of our demography and economy. There is no way out of this for them. And there's no way out of this for anyone else either. Diversity is the unavoidable future. It is inevitable, and it is better to embrace it now, celebrate it, and work out the conflicts and problems with the system now, rather than wait for catastrophe to strike in 15 to 20 years, when a movement that's like MAGA squared could be even more fascist than the one we're seeing right now. Anyway, those are my thoughts on the matter. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give me a like and a thumbs up and all the other algorithmic things. And until next time, remember that what's best in life is to crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and engage in discourse with the women. Thanks for watching.